I just got back from a walk, a 4 a.m. walk, and there is like nobody is awake at 4 a.m. except for the birds, who are like the chirpiest chirp chirp that ever did chirp. Um, but I was thinking on my walk about how much pressure people put on themselves, particularly I want to say like child victims of abuse, to be able to handle things and be strong and you know um, because of the way that abuse isolates you and ends up making you feel really responsible for everything. um, you know Children who've been abused kind of grow up and have this like driving internal imperative to never need people, um, to never have to depend on people. I mean, obviously, again, there are definitely people who do default to, needing things as a way of trying to get people in. But I do know it's really common for child victims of abuse to sometimes go hard in that other direction. Also, a lot of it probably has to do with not feeling that you have anybody that you can rely on. So not only were you made to feel responsible for everything, but it's not like you really had anyone to go to. um, I do know I've had the police involved in my childhood multiple times. CPS involved in my childhood multiple times. People tried and they cared. Things were probably better than they might otherwise have been. Um, you know, it's we really want to believe that the answer is to scoop in and take a child out and put them in another home, but you still love your parents with every piece of your little child heart. It's hard. It's a hard situation, kind of like all the way around. But anyway, so we find ourselves as adults having internalized this message that we can't rely on other people, can't depend on other people, but also that we shouldn't, that we're deficient if we can't. One thing that really bothers me is when I see people praising children or their children for being like old souls. Like, for me personally, every time I hear that, I'm like, oh no. That to me signifies that kid wasn't allowed to be a kid in some way. That they're, maybe they're just like mostly interacting with adults, or they've been through such stuff that they can't relate to other kids. There's also an element to it of, that they've lost their innocence. For me, the definition that I've come to is that innocence is the ability to experience yourself without shame. And what I've seen is that because, and again, this isn't like I'm just noticing something common from stuff that I've seen, but because of the way, whenever you experience something traumatic that other people haven't, there's like the separation then, you feel isolated, like they're living these lives that you can't even relate to necessarily anymore. Like I'd go to friends' houses and it didn't seem real. It was like, oh, this is what it's like on TV, uh, oh gosh, I remember I was at my friend's house. Bless her, both her parents were teachers. I'm so grateful that they still. I must have been such a little weirdo. Because I didn't know how to relate to. I didn't know how to be a kid. I didn't know how to relate to anybody. I just, and they still like brought me into their home, and they showed me love and care. But I'm over there for a sleepover, and she pulls out this trundle bed, and it's a mattress like on wheels or whatever, underneath the regular bed. And I was like, oh no, but then what about the cockroaches? And they all just sort of pause. And I have that internal like, okay, I've said something that maybe they don't have cockroaches, you know? Yeah, so I was, boy, do I... Oh, I didn't know. Okay, so I've found that child victims of abuse end up with this, like, their inner sense of themselves. They're like, let me back it up. There's the space between when we think a thing and the action we take. And I would notice as a kid that my space was huge compared to other kids. Other kids just seemed to do shit without even thinking about it. They didn't even think about themselves. Like, they weren't even in their heads, you know. They just like feel a thing and do it. I watched them, like, especially popular kids. I was like, they're just like totally inhabiting, like, it does not even occur to them anything, you know. It doesn't even occur to them that somebody might not like what they're doing or agree with them or whatever. And meanwhile, me, I was having these moments of, like, you know, I'd want to do a thing, and like that's such a deep, broad space between. I had a rich inner life, let's just say that. You know, in terms of being so in my head. So here we are, child victims of abuse as adults. We might have even, you know, derived some identity and significance from being told by adults, you know, all of our lives, like, oh, you're so mature for your age, you're an old soul. Which in adult speak, honestly, really means that you don't act like a kid and, you know, you follow instructions and do what you're supposed to do. Like, that's, honestly, when we get down to it, that's what adults care about. And, you know, that's not what childhood is not for following instructions. Like, I mean, yes, that's important, that's a piece of it, but, you know, there's like so much more to it. But adults really just care about how a kid's behavior is, you know, getting in the way of whatever it is they want to do. I was talking to someone today about a video they'd seen about just like a Scared Straight program, and my heart for these kids, oh gosh. So what happens is they take these kids that are, I guess, you know, juvenile delinquents, and they put them in like these boot camp programs, and they wear them down and they bust them wide open emotionally and then send them back home. Like, oh my God, they're the way they are because of their environment. That's their coping mechanism. That's how they're keeping themselves safe. You just stripped that from them and sent them back into that shit. Oh, thinking you were doing a good thing. Sweet baby Jesus. It's like, you know, oh, why are these kids acting up? Man, anytime you see kids acting up, it's not because of them. That's, you know, I mean, you know, of course there's an element like no kids aren't perfect, you know, they're gonna, you know, like, it's a learning process, you know. So we should even have that expectation anyway. But when you see some like serious shit going down with kids, like, that is because the adults around them have not done what they were supposed to do. So I'm just imagining like these poor kids going back to their homes where their needs are emotionally neglected. They're maybe in physical abuse. You know, little to no emotional support. It's not safe to be vulnerable. They've just been like, we're taking away all of these coping mechanisms you have because we don't like how you're acting, but we're not going to equip you for going back in. We're not going to give you, we'll take away the maladaptive ones, but we're not going to give you adaptive ones. And quite frankly, you know, at one point I considered being like a child something, like a speech pathologist or whatever, like a child counselor. And then I realized, like, how frustrating would it be? How frustrating is it to be in that line of work and to know that the kids are just responding to their environment? And you can't say to the parents, you're fucking up, you got to do this differently. And then the thing is, being a parent is really hard, so there's that aspect of it. Like, it's just this, like, it's a hot mess is what it is. But it really brought me to, so kind of, I was on my walk, and the wind's in my face, and it's cool, and the birds, and I saw a rabbit, and so I'm having this amazing walk, and I'm thinking about how we don't need to do it alone. This idea that child victims of abuse have, that they have to do it alone. When you're part of a community, when you find, like, like-minded people, wherever it is, and hopefully it's a community that's uplifting, it's supportive, not like troll. Reddit's kind of it's kind of a crapshoot depending on where you go, but whatever your community is, one thing I did love about the church I grew up in was, people showed up, but it wasn't all on one person. So somebody was in need of help, and then, everyone else would show up or get volunteered. I did get volunteered by the Jamaican ladies in my church. They weren't not playing. Like, you're going to put out these chairs. I think I got volunteered to clean this lady's house when I was 12. And that's when I learned about Murphy's oil soap, because she was very specific about how she wanted me to do it. And I actually really enjoyed it. It was actually really nice to be in somebody else's house, a clean house, no less. Like, she was like, it's dirty, I need you to clean this. And I'm looking around like, okay. My dad's a hoarder. So, it was actually, for me, pretty cool to hang out somewhere else and then also get fed, because they don't play. I love my church ladies. But anyway, so, I was watching this video of this other YouTuber, and she said, I can't get to every comment. So I really appreciate everyone who can uplift and support, where I can't, that this community comes together. And I was like, oh, that's so good, because I definitely, I am that person that's like, oh man, I can't get to everybody. And like, what, and I feel guilty about it. And she was coming from this place of, like, no, we're not, somebody else can be here too. Somebody else can support too. Like, we're all in this together. And I just, that really resonates for me. So for anyone who's kind of in a situation where you're feeling bad because you don't feel like you're strong enough, because you feel like you should be doing it all on your own, look at every single super successful, wealthy, rich, whatever, accomplished inventor. Like, most people are not doing this on their own. And we've, like, absorbed this idea that we're supposed to, and that we're intrinsically bad if we don't. And in terms of just in general, like, none of us are perfect. I definitely have my petty moments. Like, honestly, I'm fine with, I try to recognize them for what they are. Like, I have said to my friends, like, do you mind if I'm petty right now? And we're like, go ahead, go be petty. But, we're not always going to be, like, perfect, loving, perfect response, like, we're just, sometimes we say shit. We do our best. Maybe that's an opportunity for somebody else to show up and be their best. Whatever. It's all good. We're all like, when we step outside of, like, us being the center, and truthfully, especially for child victims of abuse, that idea is not, like, that is not our fault, right? We were made to feel like we were responsible for everything happening. So we became all the negative thing, never the positive, the negative. You're responsible for every negative thing. You are bad in all these ways, like this deep unworthiness. And it's so liberating to go, oh man, I don't have to be perfect. Holy shit, what a revelation. You know, I don't have to be perfect. I can be part of a community where we are all supporting and relying on each other. And so when I'm not in that space where I can do a thing, someone else is, and they're there for me, and I'm there for them. And it's like there's mutual, there's reciprocity, you know. Taking yourself out of the center of everything is such a relief that I can't even, such a relief. Takes so much pressure off of us. So I'm going to leave that there. Hope you all have a great Sunday. I'm going to go surprise my friend with some flowers because she's great. Like, this is the friend. This girl surprises me with, like, lobster bisque. And as you see, my love language is food. Like, if you'll feed me, if you'll make me food, I'm yours forever. Just like, you know, oh, she takes such good care of me, and I'm like, I wish I could do more. So I'm gonna do flowers just to let her know that I appreciate her. Anyway, and the bunnies were great. And I'll see y'all next time, and have a good day.